What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Mewzings Podcast studio. Today, I have the honor of being joined by Mr. Ryan, aka the Colossus Collector. Ryan, how you doing today, brother?
Doing great. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, man. I see some awesome stuff in the background there. We got our X-Men arcade game.
Yeah.
Got all your comics that I assume are the ones that I see in the background of your awesome YouTube videos.
Yep, that's you're seeing a little bit of the corners, kind of where you see my my videos. This far end though, it's not on. Not on display yet. It spans a little bit beyond the camera area.
You're gonna run out of room, man. You're gonna have those things wrapped all the way around the room here eventually.
I'm starting to run out of room. I got a IKEA shelf over here next to me with a bunch of short boxes, and it's starting to fill up. And yeah,
bless the IKEA gods. My whole setup downstairs is all IKEA stuff as well.
Yeah,
yeah, it just keeps expanding and expanding. That's awesome. You got a lot of slabs now. It's really grown.
It's just over the course of the last few years, it's just grown and grown. It's actually shrunk a bit because I've been selling off a little bit of stuff in the last little while, but I had more than my setup, so my setup's still full.
Yeah, I knew for me, as soon as I started collecting graded comics, it was going to be a slippery slope. I was like, I held off for as long as I could. I took several years of a break from collecting, and then here recently, within the past year or two, I got back into collecting, and I bought my first graded comic, and now I don't even know how many I have. Yeah. I think I know there's one coming in the mail from you here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Another one for the collection.
You were nice enough to shop on my my recent claim sale I did with Brandon from Mon Comics, and well, actually, you bought after the fact on IG, but it was all kind of part of this claim sale I did on the last weekend for.
You guys did a live collaboration with each other, right?
Yeah, it was my second claim sale, and. It was actually pretty slow live, but then on IG, I had a lot of people reach out buying some comics, so it ended up being successful. Yeah,
got some sales on the back end then. Yeah. You just never know
kind of
how
happened
it's going
to
work, right?
Yeah, no, it. I think it was a little timing thing too, because it was a long weekend here in Canada. And then it's the middle of the summer. It was a Saturday night.
Yeah,
I think Saturday night's probably not a good choice, but it's just kind of, we just like grabbed a date and we didn't really think about it too hard. So next time we'll probably do something a little different.
Yeah, I'm down here in Washington State, and I know when the summer weather hits and it's actually nice here.
Right.
I mean, not a lot of people are indoors during this time of the year. They're out either getting that yard work done or doing a barbecue or something. So yeah, I could see that having an effect on it.
It's probably better to get it. Make it happen on a work night when people are kind of inside,
Yeah, I've seen some people have some good success with like a Tuesday or Wednesday night. I've noticed I've gone on a few of those, and there's been quite a few people on. So yeah, I think you're on to something with that. That might be the play next time around for sure.
It's the tricky thing is just doing it the night before having to work the next day is kind of a pain, right? So I that's why we kind of wanted to lean towards the Saturday, but yeah, if we got the time, everybody else has the time and they're off doing something else. So it was not the perfect timing, but like I said, it worked out in the end.
Well, right out the gate, I want to get to the thing I've been wanting to ask you is the Colossus Collector. I'm guessing you're a big fan of Colossus.
Yeah, Colossus is my favorite comic book character. You referenced the arcade game behind me.
Yep.
It has a big a lot to do with that game as a kid. That was kind of my first introduction to Colossus, and I used to play that game. I have fond memories of going to a arcade place as a kid with a bunch of my friends playing the 6-player massive. It was the most monstrous arcade machine, and you got to play together all like in cooperation.
Yeah, it was so cool.
It's so good, and it was always Colossus. He had the best special attack, which is actually has nothing to do with anything he does in the comics or anything like that, but it was the best, and I just kind of gravitated to him, just being a big character. I'm a big guy. I liked powerful, kind of like macho characters, and
me too.
Just all those things combined to make him just kind of like my favorite X-Men, even though he wasn't on the cartoon, which I was a big fan of too. He just was. That's really where it comes from. And then it's
awesome.
It's grown as I've gotten into comics and learned about the character more over the years. So
it's great branding for your channel and everything. You got like all your custom Colossus Collector like stuff in your on display when you're streaming and all of that, and your videos. Like it's just like you said, you're a big guy too. So I guessed you probably were a big guy, and that had something to do with it. Like oddly enough, on that game I was always Wolverine, who is in the comics not a big dude.
Short king.
He's a short king. No spoilers for everybody, but they do a great reference to that in the new Deadpool movie.
Great
Our
reference.
little short king, comic accurate Wolverine.
Wolverine's my second favorite character, because I'm Canadian, he's Canadian. I mean, like, you gotta there's so many American characters for American comic fans to love or whatever, but like there's very few Canadian characters, so I always liked Wolverine because of that. On top of the fact that he's awesome and he's Wolverine.
Yeah, he had a pretty cool finisher, some good combos on there. The Berserker Barrage and all of that was fun in that game.
Yeah, oh man.
Yeah.
All the characters are great in the game, but it was so much fun playing that. And so when I started getting into collecting and wanted a comic room, was like, I have to have that game. I've actually always dreamed, even before I got into the collecting side of things, that I would one day get that massive cabinet with the 6 players. And maybe one day I still will, but the arcade 1-up is pretty good for now. And you could play 4 players on it, so it's still pretty good.
Yeah, you keep letting go some of those books, you'll definitely be able to get that big one day.
Well, the big ones are rare too, right? Because like there was only so many, and a lot fell out of disrepair and stuff. So I've maybe seen one pop up on online once before, but I haven't really. But I also haven't actively really searched to buy one.
Yeah,
I don't really have the space for it right now, but maybe one day I'll get it.
Yeah, I used to work at a comic book shop here called Spider's Web Cards and Comics, and it was back in the early 90s, and it was actually co-owned by Todd McFarlane along with his brother-in-law. Yeah, his brother-in-law, a guy named Kim, and so, Todd's married to Kim's sister, and so that was my first job at 16, and like 3 spaces down from where the comic book shop was, there was a huge arcade, and that was the jam. That game was the most sought after game, and I would get off work, walk down there, and play that for quite a while. Yeah, lots of good memories.
It was great. It had dual screens, right? So it was like 2 screens put together. So you had this big long game space that this smaller at home arcade 1-up doesn't quite have the same experience because of that.
Yeah, doesn't capture the scope.
You're playing within a smaller, limited amount of space, but lots.
It'll have to do for now, though.
It'll have to do, and it does. It's good.
Well, you mentioned when you got into collecting, so I had been wanting to ask you, like, how long ago did you start collecting? Is it something you're relatively new to and just kind of scratching the surface, or are you a guy like me who's been collecting for like 30 plus years?
So comics specifically, I've only been into just over 2 years now.
Okay.
But I've been
So
like
kind of during a midway point of the pandemic, kind of somewhere in there, or
I would say like the tail end of it. Like
okay.
it was, I guess I'm trying to think now, year wise. It was probably like early
2022
2022.
or
Yeah,
yeah.
early 2022 that I started, and I but like before that, when I was a kid, I like I said, like from a young age, I was a big Marvel fan. I my Marvel fandom really came from a few things. It was the video game. It was also just cartoons. So the X-Men cartoon was big. I watched the Spider-Man one as a kid, but I
Yeah.
also used to go to like the video store and rent the old like 60s, 70s, 80s cartoons on VHS. Like, so I,
Nice.
all the way back to the original Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk. There was
Yeah.
one for all the major characters: Thor, Submariner, Fantastic Four. Like, I watched all those, rented all those, and that's really where like I just started to love Marvel. And then I got into cards as a kid. I was a big sports card collector.
You and me both, man. I just
Yeah.
had somebody go through my I found my collection here recently when cleaning a storage room, and I can't take credit. While my wife was cleaning the storage room, she stumbled upon the boxes and boxes of my sports cards, and
All those super valuable 90s
so
overprinted wax cards.
so a lot of those, but actually, so one of my jiu-jitsu students specializes in sports cards, and so he went through all of them, and he ended up with a little box about like this,
Oh,
tiny,
nice.
maybe like 5-inch box, but of rare and valuable ones that he found
Oh,
in
that's
there,
good.
including a Bo Jackson Error rookie
Oh,
card
cool.
that goes for anywhere between 4 to 8 thousand raw.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I would have never known. I mean,
No,
he
I know.
literally, like, I went over to his house while he was going through them, and he's like showing me under like a scanning electron microscope, like looking up close. He's like, see
He's
that little
hardcore.
defect there? This makes it worth more when the logo's off centered like this. I'm like, holy cow, how do you even know all this stuff, dude?
Wow. Forensic.
Yeah. Yeah, very forensic, because I would have never known, that there was any value there.
Well, that's great
He
though.
spotted it.
Do you think you're gonna hold on to them, or maybe flip them and put them into comics?
I'll probably end up parting with most of them,
Yeah,
and yeah, definitely my passion is comics. It's
that's
always
great.
been my number one passion as far as collecting goes. But I'm a collector of many things. I have way too many collections. So when I was a
Hmm.
kid, it was sports cards was the sports cards, and actually coin collecting was the big ones. And then I really got, deep into the comics, and that overrode pretty much everything else. So yeah, I think those will go to feeding the the comic collection here in a bit.
Unfortunately, with my sports cards, like being a Canadian, I'm a big hockey fan, so like it's almost all hockey,
Yeah.
and hockey just doesn't really have the value compared to some of the other sports. So
Yeah,
I
there's a
wouldn't,
few there's a
I
few standout ones that if you have them in hockey, you're
yeah,
doing good, but yeah, for the most part,
but I'm
not.
too young for like the Gretzky's and like the really big ones from the '80s.
Yeah.
Like I really got into it when like there wasn't really a lot of wasn't a lot of cards that held value long term.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I had still have them. They're sentimental and stuff. But I kind of got into sports cards a little bit back in like 2019, and I bought that was more speculative, and I bought
Right.
I bought a Patrick Mahomes card for like $20 a rookie, and
Yeah.
I literally just flipped it for 1,500 Canadian,
That's amazing,
which is
dude.
great. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
pretty solid return on investment on that
That's a
one.
good spec purchase right there.
Yeah, yeah. And then I have a few other ones that I've sold here and there, some Giannis rookie cards and stuff like
Hmm.
that I've kind of like I'm selling and then putting it into my collection as well. But
so you were inspired by the cartoons, always loved the Marvel stuff, like that was big for you, and then the sport card collecting was a thing, and then so here fast forward to around 2022, then you're delving into the collecting of comics, getting a little more serious about it. Was it something that you had kind of thought about over the years, and you're like, when I have the means to do this, I'm going to spark up a comic collection? Like, what was the thing that brought you to that point where you're like, I want to pull the trigger and start really delving into this world?
Yeah. So, I still am a huge fan of the MCU. So that's really kind of what like fired my fandom for Marvel, like again as an adult, and I was just so into the movies. And then I think what happened was I was sort of a casual collector of sports memorabilia, like specifically hockey, but I always kind of felt like it was really hard to get to the collection I wanted because those items are really rare. They're kind of one of one items, and they're really expensive. And so I was kind of craving something like else. And I think I just sort of stumbled upon some channels like Gem Mint and things like that I just sort of was watching here and there, and I thought, man, like these collection rooms are amazing.
Yeah.
These are cool things, statues, comics, omnibus. And like I already loved Marvel, and I think that's where it started to like just sort of plant a bit of a seed. And then I think there was like a lot of speculation at the time on comics too.
For sure.
And I was like, oh, maybe that would be a cool thing to get into. Maybe these comics will go up in value too. Like, and so I just jumped into it. And as I started doing that, I learned more, and the speculation thing didn't really wasn't the thing that was fueling. It was more just like, I love this. I love the hobby. I love the community and all the people in it. And I just enjoyed buying the books and learning about the books, and it just sort of snowballs from there. And
do you find that going to the books and kind of finding the source where a lot of these ideas that they're using in the movies in the MCU, like seeing like where those came from and then being able to spot them in the movies, like for me it makes it even more enjoyable. Like I'll see something like a shot in a movie and I'm like, oh, that's a panel right out of the comic. They must have looked at that when they were planning. Like somebody on this production was a fan of this book,
Yeah, and I mean that was like talking, not spoilers, but the Wolverine Deadpool movie had a lot of that, which was amazing.
It was really cool.
I have really grown to love reading as well, and I still have a lot to read, and I'm trying to make my way through X-Men first because that's like my number one title and love. But I can't wait to just jump into so many other things, and I have read a few other things here and there, but I love it, and I love just discovering more things like that, and then also just being immersed in like social media and looking at comics and collecting comics. Even if you haven't necessarily read the books, you get so exposed to like the art from all over the all different titles and all different characters and stuff. So like I've seen a lot of those iconic pages, iconic covers. I can recognize those things in whether it be movies or cartoons or whatever. It adds a nice extra bonus to all that kind of content.
It's kind of like when you're into something, like you're into a show, and then somebody's like, well, that's from a book, and the book's even better. And then you go and look, and you're like, oh, well, they weren't wrong. There are some aspects of this that are better, right? Especially when you can put your imagination to it. with reading something like comics is a little different because you have the pictures too that you're looking at. But yeah, books and stuff, your brain gets to fill in a lot of the things. But I just find it's interesting. Like I always enjoy the movies when you can really tell that the people involved with it are very into it too. Like they have a love of it, like Ryan Reynolds, like he's constantly posting stuff. Channing Tatum, like he's been wanting to do a Gambit movie for like 10 years and it just never came to fruition. Like, Channing is actually going to be doing The Max. So from Image Comics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he posted on his Instagram several months ago his original comics from when he was a kid, and he had the Max there, and he made the announcement that it's got picked up for a movie deal and that he's involved in making it and stuff, and how it was like his favorite comic as a kid. And yeah, so it's just neat to see these A-list celebrities like showing their love for the quote unquote nerd community and collecting and all these different things.
It's nice to know they appreciate it, and it's not necessarily, although it's definitely a job and they're making their money. It's maybe a little bit more than that. It's like something they can really get into, like sink their teeth into and enjoy it, because there is a joy that they get from the original source material and the original where it all comes from, right? So.
Yeah. Well, we kind of have a mutual buddy in Dan's X-Men comics.
We do.
I'm sure you guys have a lot in common. X-Men, Colossus, all these different things. So, yeah, I remember it was really cool. I was talking to Dan about how, like, one of your guys' live streams that I was on, you did the one where it was you, Dan, and Mike from Lunch Money Comics. I think there was maybe somebody else on there. It was like before Christmas or something. You're doing the live stream. And that was the first time I've ever won a raffle for anything in my life. And I won the raffle that the stuff that Mike had. And what I thought was really cool was like I won that, and like you messaged me and Dan messaged me just to make sure that I got like paid out that raffle and stuff. I was like, how cool is this community, man? These guys are ensuring that I'm given this thing that I won and everything. So that was really neat. I noticed like there's a really good group, like a tight-knit community of you guys out there. Like anything else in life, I'm sure there's shady people involved in the comic collecting world and the comic selling world, but it's really cool to see a group like you guys. I love your channels. There's so much positivity involved, so I think that's something really neat that really carries over to the viewer. So do you find that you've made a lot of cool friends like through this collecting and getting into selling and everything else? Like I noticed there's a lot of collaborating, which I think is really cool. It's not just about people doing their own thing, but I see you getting on streams with other people and doing claim sales and all of that. So it seems like there's a big sense of community there that's really, really special. Yeah,
it's probably the best thing that's come out of it is just all the amazing friends I've made. It's funny. It's like such a big community, but it's also such a small community in a lot of ways too. And yeah, like I've made this really amazing group of friends that then expands even more to like other content creators and collectors and stuff. And it's just there's a lot of kindness and a lot of just wanting to enjoy what we enjoy all together, and like it brings us all together. And it's amazing, just like we're all from all over the place, right? Like Dan's out your way in the northwest,
right?
And then like Brandon only 4 hours away from me in New York State. Okay. Mike's on the East Coast. We've made friends down south. Like it's really quite awesome. And then there's even there's collectors out in Australia that I think of Dave from Still Only 35 Cents, a great channel. He's a really great guy. I've talked with him a little bit here and there, and yeah, it's amazing. Like all these people from all over the place, but we all just love the same stuff. And
yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
I think if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it on that stream too that you guys were like giving each other like Christmas gifts or something?
That was my
on one of your streams.
That was my Christmas special.
Okay.
I thought of like those classic TV Christmas specials, and I thought like I'm gonna do my own Christmas special, and I had about 8 or 9 guys on, like my closest friends in the YouTube community and IG, and we just did a bunch of different things. We played games, we did like raffle things, whatever, like the one you won, and then I just decided to surprise all the guys with gifts because I'm
dude. It was like
a Christmas guy.
I wasn't expecting for things to get emotional.
I wasn't either.
And it was so cool seeing these guys, like how much it meant and like the thought you would put into those gifts for them based on, the stuff they love and everything. So that was really, I thought that was really cool. You instantly made a big fan of me, like seeing your kindness and that camaraderie and everything.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I was pretty blown away by that. Like the cheesy like long time saying is the best gift is giving itself, right?
Yes.
But it's like so true, and it's
very true. Yeah, I feel the same way.
I really was not expecting some of the guys to get like as blown away as they did, but I thought about it for a long time, and like it took time because like I had to find the books, right? And I had to like really look for them. So I was really, really happy that they were all super happy about it and appreciated it. And it was awesome. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
You set a high bar for yourself.
Well, it's fun. It's funny you say that because, like, I'm thinking this Christmas is like, I don't know if I can afford that this year.
Yeah, right.
And so I got to figure out what I want to do. I kind of would love to do like a Secret Santa thing, where like everybody gets each other a gift or something like that. And
yeah, that's a cool idea.
What I really wish is like you could have on StreamYard, which is the platform I use for streaming. I have like I pay for the advanced subscription so you can get all the features of it, but you can still only have 10 people on a stream at one time.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, more than that is a little bit chaotic, but it kind of, I wish I could have more people on it, you know what I mean? Like just have more people sharing the fun and stuff, but it's Secret Santa thing that could be unique for sure. That could end up being really cool. So we'll see. That's just a thought I've had, but we're in the middle of summer. We don't need to get to the Christmas.
I know,
brother, but it'll be here before you know it.
It's coming up quick, man.
Yeah.
The older I get, the more time goes quicker. It's like, how are we already in August, man?
I hear you. It's we've been same group of guys. We've been planning on going to Terrificon in Connecticut.
Okay.
This month. It's like
that one's this month already.
It's like in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and like we've been talking about it for 8 months now or something like that. And it's literally here, and it's so crazy. But it'll be so awesome to meet a lot of those guys
for sure
in person for the first time, and it's going to be
really,
really,
you end
really
up running into my friend Ron Garney. You gotta say hi to him for me. Give him a hard time.
Sure.
He's a good dude. Yeah, he's drawing that Berserker comic for Keanu Reeves and all of that.
Oh, cool.
And longtime Marvel artist, and he's just been working the past several years now on that comic for Keanu, and they just had they just had that big panel at San Diego that he was on. They were all up there, and Todd McFarlane came out and gave Keanu one of the Berserker toys and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Ron's he's been so swamped with that. He's drawing the new one that's going to be coming out. So, yeah, Ron's a good dude. You definitely need to connect with him.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see some of the stuff he's done on Marvel. I'll have to look him up.
Oh, see, this is the beautiful part about you being somewhat new to collecting. Mm-hmm. Like Ron's Marvel stuff. He did a crazy run on Hulk. He did a crazy run on Captain America. He's done several Wolverine books.
Awesome.
Like, yeah, awesome stuff. Some X-Men stuff, everything else. Yeah, but he did a great run on Daredevil. Like, yeah,
Nice. That's great.
definitely look into it.
I
You're
will
gonna
for sure.
find Pocketbook, your infamous wallet is gonna be crying.
Why not add a few more to the list?
Right. So with your collection, did you have an idea going in, like, obviously with the Colossus thing, X-Men kind of centric with the start of your collection, I'm guessing, and building from there, or did you have like an idea of some Grail books that you wanted to start going after, or did it randomly come
I mean,
together in the regard to what you were narrowing your focus to when you got into it?
yeah, when I first got into it, I mean, again, I'm a Marvel guy, so like that was obviously going to Marvel. The Colossus Collector thing was my like that. I said, oh, if I'm gonna get into this, I gotta get on Instagram. Um,
Because it'd be really weird if you were Colossus Collector and then you were
and
like
didn't collect
only
it.
collecting Spider-Man or
Yeah,
something.
no, that would be a little weird. No, so like I fully knew I wanted to collect stuff that had to do with Colossus, which obviously was X-Men. So that was definitely my first, I guess, target, if you want to call it that. But I didn't go into it going like I'm only gonna get that stuff. I definitely just started looking at Marvel keys and just cool books that I liked. So I kind of just jumped into Marvel
Okay.
with like a particular look or a particular target of X-Men, but then in general, like I love getting keys. And then it kind of it grew a little bit more. Then I sort of started liking the idea of collecting some different runs on top of the X-Men runs that I was putting together. So I got into Submariner and I got into Adam Warlock.
Nice.
Um, and those are two runs that I'm in the process of collecting. And then being a Canadian, I was like, I really want the whole run of Alpha Flight. So Alpha Flight's
Yes.
also another run I'm
There's
working
some
on.
good old Jim Lee work in those
Yeah,
too.
that's where he got his start with Marvel was
Yep.
on Alpha Flight. Yeah, so those are kind of the runs I'm collecting. But then I like keys, like I said. But then I just started like buying books that I just liked, and it's pretty much Marvel. Like if somebody asked me what would my dream collection be, it would be all of Marvel, just
All of Marvel
all of it.
stuff.
Will
Is
that
there
ever
any
happen?
DC stuff that you do like? I mean, most people tend to say Batman or something like that. Batman or Superman. Obviously, those are kind of the big two that anybody in the world, if you bring up DC, that's kind of the only ones they know.
Hmm.
Maybe if they're more of a casual person, like for
Yeah.
you, are there any of the titles that have appeal to you or specific runs that you've looked into?
So the thing with DC is I'm I'm kind of like I'm weird in the sense that I'm sort of like a brand loyal kind of guy. Like
Okay.
I drink Coke, not
Yeah,
Pepsi.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and like um so like I have this weird kind of thing where like I feel just like fiercely loyal to Marvel. That said, I wouldn't say I would never potentially dip my toes into DC. It's just I'm so early on that like I just there's so much more Marvel to like continue
Yeah.
to read and pursue. It's just not on my radar yet. Um, but if I had to say like if I were to go down that route, I've always had a weird fascination with Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I've just thought he's kind of a cool character.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Um, that Ryan Reynolds movie gets like the everybody hates that movie, even he
Yeah.
hates that movie. Um, and I'm not saying it was like a masterpiece by anything, but there were just things about Green Lantern I thought was cool. Like I just liked his power set. I
Yeah.
thought uh I'm blanking on his name. Mark Strong plays him. Sinestro. I thought Sinestro's cool character in the movie.
Sinestro was cool, yeah.
And I know he becomes a villain, and he's mostly a villain in Lantern. But yeah, and then I like the idea of like the Lantern Corps, because again, I love teams. Like it's like the X-Men, you know. So like I could see myself getting into Green Lantern. I just like I kind of don't want to, because then I got a whole other thing I got to start going, and it's just like maybe one day I'll look into it.
You got your hands full with all the Marvel stuff.
I just got a lot, right? Like, and then I also I really do. There's some Swamp Thing characters or covers that I really like. Like there's a Bernie Wrightson. It's not number one. It's the other one where he's like facing.
I know which one you're talking about.
It's like 4 or 5 or whatever. Like I might just buy that because that art is incredible.
Bernie Wrightson is insane. Yeah, I've always collected based on artists, but my collection is like probably 98.9% Marvel stuff. So I'm kind of right there with you. Like a certain artist is on Batman or something, like when David Finch was doing it, or some of that stuff I definitely collected. But mass majority is Marvel stuff. You know, it's funny going back to Green Lantern. With that Green Lantern movie, a lot of people don't realize that was one of Taika Waititi's earliest things that he did as well.
Oh, did he direct it?
I believe so.
Oh, wow. I didn't
I'll have
know
to
that.
fact check myself, though. You know
He's
how
probably
it is
got,
when you...
well, if you think that he probably had some sort of involvement in that.
I don't have a...
maybe produced
I don't have a Jamie here, like Joe Rogan has Jamie to look stuff up for him. So I got to pop over here. Green Lantern, Taika. Boom. 2011 film. He had a supporting role in it.
Oh,
so he was actually a character. Yeah, he was like the friend with the glasses. Yeah.
Oh man, maybe I gotta watch that again. Yeah, I remember there being a friend. I just can't think of it. I can't picture him in it, but
he was in it. He definitely looks different in it. But yeah, I don't think he directed it though. It says who directed it.
But it's one of his first acting gigs, I guess. Then
director, yeah, it was when he was very early on. Yeah, no, somebody named Martin Campbell directed it. But yeah, Taika Waititi was actually in that. in the
it's amazing.
Often trashed Green Lantern.
It's amazing certain movies or shows where like famous actors or famous directors or whatever were involved in. You never realize it's like one of my favorite shows ever was Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah,
and I don't mean to veer off into non-comic conversation.
No worries.
But
we talk about all things on here, man.
There's so many actors in that show that, like, Tom Hardy's in that show.
Yes.
I mean, the list goes on. There's just like a long list of Michael Fassbender's in that. Like, there's just all these big name actors that were on that series. But yeah, it's just kind of cool when you discover that. Black Hawk Down's another one where like just there's so many actors in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool when you go back and you see these things. You see these people involved early on that then become something in the industry. Like, Kevin Feige was like way down at the bottom of the totem pole, like in the first X-Men movies and stuff. And he's been involved
with them all the way through. Yeah. It's crazy.
And he was actually like when Hugh Jackman basically thought he like failed his audition and stuff to play Wolverine, like Kevin Feige was the one that like took him to the airport and like took him to lunch and gave him some like a pep talk and was super nice to him and stuff. And then look where they both are now.
Full circle, man. I love that. I love those stories.
When you got into collecting, did you know that graded stuff was going to be something, the slabbed books were going to be something you were going to pursue? Like we talked a little bit about how for me that was a slippery slope. Like, for those listening, maybe you're not that familiar, but graded comics are, usually of more value because they're, you can get a higher grade. They're sealed in plastic. They're archival, basically. And they tend to cost a lot more money than a raw, just out in the air comic book. So I know a lot of people. I know for me, there was some trepidation because I know how I am. I knew once I got started, but I knew that expense was there. So did you start off collecting more raw stuff and then get into graded? I know I've seen on your channel you've actually sent off your books as well to get graded, which I'd like to talk about a little bit as well after we address your adventure into graded comics.
Yeah, so like first off, they do generally go for more because there's a cost that goes into getting them done, getting them graded, so that collectors are trying to work that into the price, right? Recoup some of the cost that went into it. But yeah, I learned about slabs and grading pretty early on. And it just kind of always seemed like something that was good for comic books that had some, value. You wanted to display, you wanted to preserve as well. So right off the bat, I never had any I didn't really have I didn't really make a decision like, oh, I'm going to or I'm not going to.
Right.
I just kind of, it was part of the hobby, right? Sometimes
just came with the territory.
Sometimes you get books graded, sometimes you keep them raw. So I didn't have any kind of philosophy on it going into it. I spent the first year of my collecting pretty much just buying books graded. So I would buy graded books, I'd buy raw books. And then it wasn't until I started my YouTube channel just before I started my YouTube channel, I decided to send in my first submission, and my second video on my channel was my first ever
getting
CGC
books back and
submission, and which was a great decision because I those kinds of videos actually really do quite well on especially
you reacting to whether you got a good grade or a bad grade.
Especially if it's your first one, and that video went crazy. It was my second video on my channel, and I got 7,000 views on it or something.
Oh, wow.
And it set my channel it's just kind of rocketed it out of the chute early. So my first I don't know, whatever, 8 to 10 videos were all over 1,000 views, gained so many subscribers early, and that kind of helped me. And then it petered way out, and
right.
YouTube algorithm kicked me in the butt.
And then you're chasing the dragon.
Yeah, and it's never been the same. I was a superstar for about eight videos, and then it was gone. But yeah, no. So after I did that, I was like, oh, I gotta do some more of these submissions, get some more of these videos on my channel. So I've submitted several times now, and I've learned some lessons along the way for sure. It's you got to be a little bit more discerning and picky about what books to send in, what's worth grading. I've really dialed it back. I haven't done any submissions this year, other than another little project.
I'm scared of sending them, and I'm worried that they're gonna sit there and then somebody's gonna bend it, because I've seen so many horror stories and wait, that crease wasn't there when I mailed that book to them. Now as of they dinged it for having a crease here that wasn't here, and or the people who will really go to great lengths to get something cleaned and pressed, and then it sits at CGC for 3 months to where the pressing isn't as crisp by the time they grade it, and it gets a lower grade, and just all these things have made me very hesitant. I think if I was gonna send something, it's probably gonna be something I have 2 or 3 copies of, so if it doesn't work out, I know I still have my raw ones at home. Yeah,
I've never done their their pressing and cleaning service. That does actually make me nervous, and I've heard
Yeah.
people get pretty mixed results there.
I've heard horror stories about their service, and then I've just heard that horror story about people either doing it themselves or getting it done by another company, and then it gets to CGC, and then the book sits there for months before they do the grading, and then a lot of people don't realize with the pressing that sometimes that'll over time it'll degrade and the wrinkles will come back if it sits for too long before getting put in that slab and everything.
The good thing that's happened in the last couple years since when I was first getting into the hobby is that people aren't grading as much, and like the hobbies dipped in terms of how many people are in it, and so turnaround times are really, really a lot better than they were a couple years ago. Like people were waiting like a year for books.
Yeah, I'd seen some things,
which is crazy. I luckily didn't ever have any really super long turnaround times in what I did, and I always got I either pressed them with a third party, somebody I know locally, or I did a few myself. I decided to get a press and learn to do it myself. I do a very basic thing. Like I don't do any of those hardcore cleanings and stuff. Like
some of that gets like in depth. Yeah,
I don't want to wreck my books, and I guess you can practice and work your way into it, but
one of my black belts, one of my jiu-jitsu students, he's huge into it, and he like taught himself how to do it all, and just basically took all his garbage books and practice on them, and got to a point where he's now very good at it. But that all scares me. I'm like, man, I just don't want to mess it up. I'd rather pay like a reputable place to do it.
It all just depends on your budget and all those sorts of things. Like a really basic clean is actually pretty simple. You just got to be careful and take your time with it, right? And then, if it was like a super valuable book, I would definitely get it done third party as well, and just pay the money to get it done. But like for stuff that's sort of a little bit more affordable and easier to do, I could do that myself and save myself some money and some time, because sometimes those third party pressers and cleaners are busy, and it takes like months to get your books back from them. So
that makes sense.
I don't want to wait that long. Usually when I'm ready to grade something, I'm ready to do it, and I don't want to wait months and months and months. So.
When you got into collecting, was it ever in the back of your brain that you were going to sell? Like you were going to start selling as well, or did that kind of become a means to an end to facilitate more collecting?
Yeah, I still don't. I wouldn't even say I'm a seller. Like this was just my second time doing any kind of like sale.
Right.
It's just a means to do more or buy something different. So flipping stuff is really kind of it. I've sold on eBay too, so I guess I've sold a little bit more than 2 sales, but it was always just eBay before, and eBay, I don't know, it's hard to get what you want on eBay, because people make low ball offers, and then it sits and sits and sits. Generally they won't buy it, and by the time somebody's ready to buy it, the price has gone down anyway, so it's it's much easier to sell on. I've so far IG's been like the best place to sell for me, and
I know a lot of people that have a lot of good success through IG. And then some people like doing the YouTube stuff as well. They have good success with that. So it's cool that there's several different avenues now to go as far as that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And like, and then you have, friends and stuff who share it out for you too. And so it's a good network to sell. And the great thing too is you're just dealing with people, and generally people you're somewhat familiar with too. So there's a little bit more trust involved. And I mean, if anybody ever has problems with anything I ever sell, like I totally will make that right, or you know what I mean? Like I'm stand up and I want to be trusted, right? So
Yeah.
if that was ever the case, like I want to make sure that I'm being a good seller, but there's also risk on IG too, right? Because you're
Absolutely.
you know, if depending on how you're paying.
Yeah, I got burned one time so far. Luckily, it was a cheap sale, but it's like $30 or whatever. But still, it's like, dang it, I can't believe I fell for that.
The only things I've been burned on is on Whatnot.
Okay.
And but when it's never been big enough for me to like really want to go through the process of like complaining about it and stuff. So I tend to avoid things that are gonna take a lot of time and complication, and so unless it's like a lot of money, I just deal with it. But
yeah, I haven't gone down the Whatnot rabbit hole. Like I've gotten on there, but I've not purchased anything on a live show or anything like that. It's
definitely a rabbit hole. You can find great deals on there and good books, but there's also some danger with getting competitive about a book you're trying to buy, or just like getting really like in the moment and FOMO-y and just buying stuff that you don't really need or want.
Get caught up in that bidding war, man.
Yeah. So,
I've done that on a online, like on a live YouTube sale thing. I was like, did I really want to pay that much to get that, or was I more into the I'm not going to let you win? I'm going to get this book.
And I mean, Whatnot multiplies that by even more, because there's a timer going down, and it comes down to like 1 or 2, 3 people, and like you feel like they're bidding you up on purpose so that you pay more, and you get angry, and it could get a little intense.
And there very well could be people in there doing that they have joined their show. Hey, just keep boosting it up, keep this guy on the line.
Yeah.
With your collection, what were some of your Grail books and books that you were like, okay, I need this? Like, I'm assuming like the first appearance of Colossus has to be somewhere on that list.
That's what I like to call my Grail of Grails. That was my first major Grail that I went after, and I got that last year, and so I got that GSX.
That's a slab, right?
Yeah, GSX1 in a 5.5, and it's a great book. It's my favorite book in my collection.
For the casuals, giant size X-Men.
Yeah, giant size X-Men number 1.
Yeah, it's first appearance of a lot of. That's a big key. Yeah, that's a big key issue.
It's a monster book. It's first appearance of Colossus, Nightcrawler, Storm. Yeah. Those are the 3 big ones. It's the first,
and kind of the team as it's known.
The first time they're all together as X-Men. Wolverine joins the X-Men for the first time. Yeah, it's got a lot of significance. It kicks off, even though Claremont isn't the main writer on it, he did contribute to it, and it kicks off his epic era and run of X-Men. So it's a very important book. My favorite book ever.
And you got it like a year into collecting?
I got it super early. It's almost like anticlimactic, right? Like I didn't chase it very long. But now
that's a big one.
Yeah, now I'm chasing the X-Men 1. And that's part of why I'm like selling books right now.
Selling stuff,
yeah. That's my goal for the year, and I also want to get the one that I really want, one that presents really good. It'll be lower grade, but I want it to look really nice. And
does that one have a white cover?
That is a white cover. It's Magneto's
where they're all in their old costumes. Like
and they're all the X-Men are kind of coming towards Magneto, who's got his back to us, the viewer. Yeah.
Man, yeah, so finding that one in a grade where it presents well, where the cover's probably not completely beige.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be a little, like, it'll definitely have some tanning for sure. Those white covers are so hard to get.
It's hard.
You know, like, I mean, I have some like pretty nice, like higher grade white books that don't, from that era that
I do too. Yeah, I have a Captain America, like an old Captain America. I think it's the It's the Steranko, like the iconic Steranko cover, white
Oh
cover
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
Cap's
yeah.
got the,
I know
and
exactly
that
what.
thing is so friggin' tan, and
Yeah,
it's like I think that one's like a 7.5 or an 8,
I
and
have
I'm
an
like,
I have an 8 or an 8.5 of uh it's a Tales of Suspense. It's the first appearance of Whiplash with Iron
mm-hmm,
Man, and it's a white cover, and it's like an 8.5, and like you said,
yeah,
it's tan. Same, but I have two pretty decent white cover books. I have X-Men 49 First Polaris, and it's a pretty
okay,
nice, decent white. Not like perfect white, but like it's pretty
yeah,
nice. And then I have that Iron Man and Submariner team up book. That's part of the big premiere issue run, and that's got a really nice white background. So
that's
those are my two
awesome.
Silver Age white covers that actually retain a decent amount of whiteness.
Yeah, that's the thing that made me realize I don't understand anything about the grading process because I'm like, how did this get like an 8 with the cover being this this
Yeah,
beige, you
yeah.
know? But it's like maybe that doesn't, factor in as much as I thought it did, you
Or
know.
maybe it's in such good condition that really the thing that's knocking it back is the tanning, right? Like,
Right.
so the reason it's an 8 is because it's tan. Maybe it'd be in the nines if
Yeah,
was less
yeah.
tan.
Yeah. Well, what are some other grails that you're chasing? You got to have like
Oh, I mean, it's a
you
laundry
got to have an
list.
endless list, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, so X-Men 1 would be my first, like, really big, like, what I would call, like, the upper level of Marvel keys. You know, your first Thors, your first Iron Man, your first Avengers.
Yeah.
Um, and so all of those I would love, but, like, we'll get there in time. Outside of, like, kind of those, like, major keys, I really want an Iron Man one, which was like his first solo ongoing title. Again, part of those big premiere issues. Um,
And this
it's-
Tales of Suspense was like the first appearance, right?
yeah,
Of
Tales of
technically,
Suspense 79,
I
or is it
think so.
179?
Somewhere in there. I
Yeah.
always get mixed
I'm
up on
always
those.
I'm always bad on numbers. That's the one
Yeah.
thing. Issue numbers I just can never remember. But
But if you see the cover, you'll be
oh
like, ah,
yeah, the
that one.
classic sort of minty green
Yep.
cover on that. Yeah, so that's his first appearance. But then there's Iron Man 1, which is his first, like, it's just Iron Man in the title.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really iconic blue cover. Um, there's a number of X-Men books that I want, like an X-Men 4, which is the first appearance of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver and the Brotherhood of Mutants. And then X-Men 2, like a lot of those early X-Men books I need in my run.
Yeah,
Trying to
you
think.
have that. You have the first appearance of Juggernaut one, right?
I do, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I ended up with that one too, a nice graded copy, and I was like, ah,
That
Ryan's
was
got that as well. I've
that
seen
was a
that in his background.
that was a really cool one because I got that off of Heritage Auctions,
Oh wow,
and they said it was a 2.5, and I got it graded and it came back a 4.5.
that's
And
great.
so that was like really good value. Although now it's probably about the same price, worth the same price that I paid for it
Yeah,
last January. But still, really, really, that was really a great return from CGC.
yeah.
Yeah, I try. Oh, I really want a Marvel Spotlight 5 first Ghost Rider. That's one of the Bronze Age ones that I don't have that I want to get. Um, yeah, I could go. I mean,
And the
first.
list probably changes from day to day
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's just a long list. There's so
and
many on
grows,
there
right?
that I would love to get.
Yeah,
First, Cap, like Avengers 4 when Cap joins the Avengers. I'd love to get first Doctor Strange. Lots. I mean, I just could go on and on.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you just it's so vast. Like there's so much history there, and there's no shortage of being able to find stuff that you enjoy and that we're always seeking. Like for me, my two big grails right now is going to be the giant size X-Men one and Hulk 181. Like I want that first appearance.
That's another one.
Yeah, and I almost pulled the trigger on it couple months ago because I was at a comic convention and I was looking at one on the wall. The guy had a nice raw copy, and then I'm like, yeah, can I see that? And he's like, I've got like 10 of them if you want to see the other ones. Like,
oh wow.
You know, I held like a stack of them and was looking through them, and he had like all different grades, all different price range.
That just goes to show you how not really rare that book is.
It's such a common book, but it's always so dang expensive. So it was like, and then the reason I held off on it was because I'm like, well, it's up, you know, because that rumor regarding Deadpool and Wolverine popped up about Hulk. And so back then, a couple months ago, everybody was specking on that. And they're like, oh, he might show up. So it's like, okay. And then this guy's probably got this thing inflated on the price so much because he knows everybody's looking for it because of the movie, you know?
Yeah. And just the movie itself, not even that, the fact that Hulk could be in it. But the fact that it's first Wolverine definitely had.
And I'll admit it, I bought the first appearance of Dazzler just because there might have been Taylor Swift might show up. You never know.
I already had it. I should have probably sold it and then now buy it
at its peak. Yeah.
Oh well.
But you know what I said with that one? That's a comic. Like I love Uncanny X-Men and X-Men, so I'm like, even if that doesn't end up being true, I still love the fact that I have the book and I have it in a nice grade and everything.
It's a great book.
So,
it's a really great book. I mean, what a great cover, and then Dazzler's an awesome character. So definitely,
it's the whole like collect what you love kind of thing, right? It's not I'm getting this because I'm going to flip it. It's like, no, I'm getting it because I love the X-Men. And if it just happens to be that it goes up in value because the character appears somewhere, that's bonus points, right? That's frosting on the cake.
I honestly don't really spec on anything except I have one book I spec on, and it's X-Men 221 First Mr. Sinister. I have like 10 copies of that book.
Mr. Sinister is going to show up at some point, and you're going to be able to, especially with what they did with the new X-Men 97 cartoon and everything. They kind of, Mr. Sinister was in that and everything. So, he's going to show up somewhere in one of the MCU things here.
Yeah. I got three. I have 3 graded copies, and then I have like 7 raw copies.
Nice.
It's crazy.
Yeah, Kevin Feige's kind of said this is the era of mutants as far as the phase of the MCU that they're in right now, from Deadpool forward. So it's going to really be interesting to see how they're introduced and, what kind of recasting goes on. And, I have faith. Like, they've done a pretty good job. The last thing I want to get your input on, since you are also a very big fan of the MCU, what was your initial reaction to the announcement of Robert Downey Jr. coming back and playing Doctor Doom?
Yeah, that was a surprise.
That was a big surprise,
That was a big surprise. I think, other than shock, my initial reaction was just like, what? Like, how? Like, but
how and why and all these different things was my initial.
Yeah.
But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, they've got to have a reason. And with the whole multiverse thing and variants and all these different things, like I trust that they know what they're doing. So I'm kind of cool with it. But the initial thing was just like, what? Like, there's so many great actors that could play that character. Like, what's going on?
I'm kind of like, I have 2 sides to it. Like, if I was being like truly brutally honest, I think I'd prefer it not to be Robert Downey Jr. I'd love them to just do Doctor Doom from the jump, like the way, like comic accurate Doctor Doom. Like, let's do that. But like you said, like I'm also excited about it because one, the Russos are back to direct and
Yep.
guide the ship. So like I have a lot of trust in them. Also, they brought back one of the writers from the Infinity War and Endgame, so that really helps put my mind at ease in terms of just who's like making this happen. And then I think there's like some pretty interesting stuff that they could do with this.
Yeah.
Like I said this to I don't know if it was on a stream or I was talking to somebody about it, but like imagine a moment where Tom Holland, Spider-Man,
Yep.
meets Doctor Doom,
And he looks like
Tony, and
Yeah.
he's like he thinks he goes to him like out of like love, curiosity,
Yeah.
whatever, and then like Doom like messes him up. Like that's gonna
Yep.
be like an insane moment.
I just
if
had
it
that
happens.
thought.
Yeah.
I just had that thought earlier today. I was watching another like podcast or something, and they were talking about like the whole thing is like, do you really think they're gonna keep Robert Downey Jr.'s face covered up the whole time?
Yeah.
Like they found every excuse in the world for Iron Man's masks to open up to show Robert Downey Jr. Like, and do you think they're gonna do the same with Doom, or are they gonna, be more like the old school comics where he has it on all the time? And they had mentioned something about, what if black suit Spider-Man shows up and is beating him up, and then he sees that it's the mask cracks and it's, he recognizes him as Tony Stark and is confused.
Totally. I mean, like it's there's good. And I mean, that's just one character. I mean, there's a lot of other characters that I mean, or Pepper Potts, or who knows, like there's so many different things they could do with it. And yeah, you're totally right. They're definitely not going to keep the mask on him all the time.
No, I don't think so.
Because they like look at Hugh Jackman in the last movie, right? Like,
but that was I actually like that was really cool how they did that.
Yeah,
I think it carried a lot of weight. That the point when he did put on the mask, you're like, okay, I
wouldn't wear the mask all the time either, right? Like,
right. Or a shirt.
But I'm open-minded to what they could do with him. I mean, they could also, like scar his face and stuff too, right? Like, so we'll see. There's a lot of pass forward. It could be Doom takes over his body, steals his identity.
Yeah, like in the comics,
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of different things. So
you want to talk about FOMO books and spec books.
Oh, gosh.
All of those things are
just
blowing up right now.
Have we not learned?
Any appearance, anytime Tony Stark and Doctor Doom interacted, it's all those books are going up like crazy.
I mean, we're going to do this again. Come on.
We're going to keep doing it, brother.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Ryan, I appreciate you spending some of your time with me this afternoon. It's been awesome having you on. I'd definitely like to have you back on again for sure.
Would love to. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, my pleasure. Let everybody know how they can find you online if they want to give you a subscription on your YouTube, or they want to follow you on Instagram. Where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's at Colossus Collector, both on YouTube and on Instagram. Follow me, drop me a line, say what's up. Would appreciate subscriptions and follows and all that stuff. So always looking for more friends in the comic community, and appreciate anybody stopping by.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, make sure you go give Ryan a follow. I will put those links in the show description. I want to encourage everybody to check out the YouTube version of the podcast, youtube.com/@Nerdy Mewzings. Nerdy is spelled like normal. Musings is MEWZINGS. You can find us there. You can find the audio version on any of your favorite audio podcast platforms. It really help if you guys give us a subscribe, a like, give us a review over on Apple Podcasts. That really helps get the show known and, So it shows up, so people are seeing that there's another awesome comic related podcast out here. So I encourage you guys to do that. It's much appreciated. And until next time, I'm going to hit this outro. Keep it nerdy, everybody.